Like, because now as a therapist, I work from a more modern mental health perspective that really prioritizes preventative therapy.
Mm,
So my kind of view is that therapy is for everyone. And if you go, it will help prevent these kind of big traumatic responses to trauma that happens in your life,
mhm.
because most people will experience trauma in their life. And if they create this supportive foundation in therapy and they do their own work and they have a space to process and feel safety in doing so, then it's going to impact them. I don't want to say less, but that they're more likely to have resilient outcomes. The town I grew up in, I think the average income for a four-person family was $30,000.
Wow.
So very rural. And because therapy was not accessible and wasn't an option, I was talking to a friend from home about this that I grew up with. It almost seemed like because it wasn't an option, that many people rejected it
Mm.
and saw, and
We
this
can't have it, so we don't want it anyway.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it's this defense mechanism. So
Mm,
I've kind of coined the term modern mental health as, my definition for it is accessible, relatable, and relevant.
mm,
So part of being accessible, I think, is showing up on social media, giving people language and psychoeducation for free that they can run with and decide what they want to do with it, how they want to receive it or act upon it. One thing I specialize in is enmeshment. A lot of people don't even know that term, but it
oop,
essentially means like your family system is totally lacking in boundaries. There are these unwritten rules that everyone is expected to abide by so that they don't rock the ship. And then usually I'll just give you kind of like a picture of how this presents. A lot of, I will say mostly women will come to me and say, my partner is totally enmeshed. And there's actually like some statistics behind this, that what tends to happen is that a couple, like parents, a couple will not be meeting each other's needs emotionally. And then mom usually looks to her children to meet her emotional needs. Typically, sometimes a daughter, but even more strongly a son sometimes. And then there becomes this unhealthy attachment. And the kids don't get to experience healthy differentiation in adolescence like they typically would. First, the enmeshed child that's usually coming to therapy has to see it as a problem, because that's where we get stuck a lot is,
uh-huh.
say the wife is coming to me saying, my husband's enmeshed. If the husband doesn't want to change anything, it's going to
Yeah.
be tough, right? And then I'm working with the wife or the partner on, what can we do in this situation if your partner doesn't see anything wrong with this, or maybe they might, but they don't want to change it. In
Mm,
fear, usually, of rocking the boat and what it might do to either of their parents, if they were to set a boundary, like, because it's like you don't do that in
yeah.
enmeshed families.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of the work. Assertiveness training, identifying wants and needs
Okay.
personally and in the relationship, and just like the vision that you have for your family and whether that's aligning value wise right now with the current behaviors in play. Like, the reason we want boundaries is to keep our relationships protected from resentment and healthy. Like, if you care about someone, it's important to set boundaries with them.
Hmm.
So reframing that as boundaries are not scary, they're actually protective of healthy relationships.
Mm.
But gosh, I just wish we could like put it on a billboard everywhere. Would be, ask your child if they want help or if they just want you to listen.
Mm.
So many times when kids try to go to their parents, and I say kids, but I'm yes, kids too, but also teens and even college kids and even adult
I know. I
children.
was just thinking wives all the
Yeah,
time.
adult children too. Go to their parents and they're talking to them about something, maybe even venting to them about something, and the parent automatically jumps in with all of these options or ideas or
Fix
whatever.
it.
And a lot of my clients will say that's kind of a form of disrespect in a way, because they're assuming that I haven't already thought of those options for myself and
Mm.
already covered those bases and thought, maybe that's not a good option for me for some reason. And at this point, I'm just talking through it. I
This
talk.
toddler stage of just like nothing makes sense and there's like chaos and I'm overstimulated on a regular like this is hard. This is a hard phase for me.
Yeah, this morning my daughter had a meltdown because she wanted to put her hood on and her coat did not have a hood.
Yeah.
Like, I can't help you. I'm sorry. Girl, I have had to file police reports.
Stop.
Yes. And this is the
No.
stuff that we don't talk about. And I would like love eventually to talk about this. I don't know if I'm like in a place to yet, but just behind the scenes, what large accounts on social media and content creators deal with.
Yeah.
Like harassment, right? Business sabotage, plagiarism, yeah, just all of it. And I will say that even despite all of that, I feel like it is still worth being on their face. I think people forget that they control their accounts.
Yeah.
And you can delete people, you can block people, you can also unfollow people on your end if you feel a certain way about them.
Mhm.
And to just go with that instinct, because I think for therapists specifically, their empathy is what makes them the most vulnerable to being attacked. Yeah, I'm an Enneagram 3. Are you familiar with the Enneagram?
Yeah, I think I'm what am I? I think I'm a 3.
Really, I wouldn't be surprised. They're overachievers.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm a 3.
and so there's just this kind of like constant inclination to be doing, and the next thing and the next thing. And the big question that threes have to ask themselves is, who are you without the doing? And so
Wait, say
really,
it again.
who are you without the doing?
Without the doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
like if
don't
you
know.
were, I know that's a real tough one to
I
sit
know
with.
I'm someone.
Yeah, but what would that look like or feel like? Would there be discomfort? And I think that's a question worth wrestling with and making sure that your motivations are healthy and not stemming out of like this flight state,
Mhm.
like fight or flight.